Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Talent Collective Fireside panel. We have a really exciting topic today that I know a lot of people are super interested in within the world of TA and outside of the world of TA. And you might be on this call and you might not even be in recruiting or in talent acquisition, which is totally great because this is a topic that applies across industry. And many people have probably heard the word fractional being thrown out there a lot more these last couple of years. And so I have two really amazing panelists here to talk about what fractional means, some of the ins and outs of what running a fractional business looks like. And what better two people here than Karina and Samantha? So we're going to be talking about, what are the definitions of what fractional actually means. We're going to talk about client acquisition, billing, pricing, setting boundaries, and a whole other host of things. So welcome everyone for being here. We're so happy to have you. So as you get settled, feel free to put your name, where you're calling from, your LinkedIn profile in the chat. Always love for everyone on the call to be able to connect with each other and say hello. So one more thing, just a couple other housekeeping items. This is being recorded. If you have to hop off early, we will send it out afterwards. And if you have any questions, you can also pop those in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat here and there. But also, we have a smaller group today. So if you want to come off chat and ask a question or raise your virtual hand, we'll do my best to get around to those as well. For those of you who don't know what Talent Collective is, we are an organization, a community for women in recruiting. We've been around about 2 years and we host panels like this and then some, majority of which are going to be within the recruiting or TA, topics, but we also do a lot on wellness and health. So always keep an eye on our events for future topics that could apply even outside of recruiting. So with that, I want to say a huge thank you to Karina Mickley and Samantha Dillenback. They're both happen to be fractional COOs. So Karina is a professional services and SaaS fractional COO workflow consultant, and this is exciting, the founder of Fractionals United. So she knows a ton about the fractional space, and also Right Size Collective. And then Sam is a fractional COO, operations consultant, and founder and CEO of Nerd Hat Solutions, and a member of Fractionals United. So I'm going to pass it over to them real quick to do a little bit more of an introduction and say anything else that I didn't quite get to. So Karina, would like to hear from you first.
Sure. You did a pretty comprehensive intro, so there isn't much left to say, but I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Before I became all the things mentioned, I was a teacher, I was a personal trainer, I've done different things. I was a COO of a niche recruiting agency, so love being here. Know how important talent acquisitions is, and just happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And Sam.
Yeah, yeah, you did a great job. Yeah, I am Sam I am. I help small businesses with people-centered systems. My focus is very much a leadership development approach. I'm located in Richmond, Virginia, with a house full of guys. I am a boy mom many times over. The monetary damage to my house is significant, but it's delightful. And so it's very nice to be here with a majority group of women today.
Well, I think that's hilarious that you mentioned that because when you have like a child that's a girl, there's the monetary damage of like her always wanting clothes and just the million other things girls want. So good to know there's that damage on the household side too.
Yes.
So, Sam, it's funny. I don't know that we've ever discussed this. I have a son, one son, and my husband. So I'm the only female in the household too. So we have that in common as well.
Oh, so much in common.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you both for introducing yourselves. I think we're going to start off with some definitions. So, as I mentioned earlier, this word fractional has been really kind of thrown out there quite a lot these last couple of years. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what fractional means. I had a lot of misconceptions about it. And actually, after having our prep call for this panel, took it off my LinkedIn profile because I felt like I was misrepresenting myself from the true way that fractional is defined. And Karina, I'm going to pass it to you now. She's actually a part of another organization, and I'm not going to try to butcher the name on that one, but they're really almost making this like, not almost, but they're making like a professional association for fractionals, similar to if anyone here is a member of like SHRM or something like that for HR professionals. So they're doing a lot of work to really get super, super clear on what fractional means. And so Karina, would love to pass it over to you and hear more about that.
Sure. So the association is the FLA, or the Fractional Leadership Alliance. And yes, it's the first association for fractional leaders. I'm one of the founding members and their fractional COO. And one of the first thought pieces we put out there was the official definition, because you guys know how important like words and titles and all of that can mean, and there is so much misconception. So let me also share my screen if I'm allowed to. Okay. So what you're seeing in front of you is like, so as an ops person and workflow consultant, whenever I have to do something over and over, I'm like, there has to be a better way. So I created this website called fractionaldefined.com. It's available to everyone. And it's like anytime there's confusion, like I share it. So this is the global definition from the FLA. But this is actually on the Fractionals United website, which I think makes it easier to, can everybody see my screen? Okay,
Yep.
cool. So the easiest way I find of defining fractional is comparing it against the other part-time 1099 things out there, right? It's not that one is better than the other, it's just they're different. So the things that it's often confused with are consultant, interim, or advisor. And the easiest way to look at it is across these things. Are you embedded? Is there an end date? Full-time, represents company and leads team. And basically, so if you look embedded with the team, a fractional is and an interim is, but consultants and advisors are not, right? And embedded means you are literally part of the team, right? You have a seat on the org chart or a spot on the org chart, whatever. Is there an end date? With fractional, no. An interim, yes, because you're interim, right? Till they fill the slot. Consultant, there's definitely an end date, and advisor, no. So you're in there part-time, embedded, as long as they need you. Full-time, no. By definition, it's fractional. Whereas interims are full-time. And as a fractional, you represent the company and you have people reporting to you. There was another fractional COO in the community. He since moved on to be a founder, so he's not acting as a fractional anymore. But he would say how like he only took 2 clients at any given time because he worked with young founders, so they needed a lot of his attention. And his team didn't even know he was fractional because to them he was just the COO. He had an email, he had a calendar, with time on there for them to check if he's available for meetings. There was absolutely no difference. So to all intents and purposes, a fractional is a part-time leader, right? And to the team, there is no difference. To a CEO founder, the only difference is you're 1099 and you're part-time doing other things. But you represent the company, you lead the company, you do the things that the full-time person would do.
That is so helpful. When I saw that, I was like, Karina, you have to share that during the panel because that cleared up just a lot of questions in my mind and misconceptions. I think specifically in the world of TA, a lot of people, myself included, I have a leadership background. I can come in and do strategy, and I could be an interim and or fractional head of talent. But what I see typically happen is a company, like, first and foremost needs recruiting help, right? And then you kind of get in there, earn the trust, and then maybe, act as a leader in some way. But, really it was, I think the takeaways for me from what you shared were obviously being embedded in the company, not really having an end date. You're basically a part-time leader at the company. And so I think a lot of people in recruiting, again, myself included, as of 3 days ago, were saying, I'm a fractional recruiter. And, technically that might be a little bit misleading or even just misrepresenting, I guess. And then for everyone on here too, we're going to talk a little bit about like the fee model and it being fractional, usually being like a monthly retainer model as opposed to an hourly model. We're actually going to do another panel with a few hourly consultants as well, because there's different questions that come up when you're charging a client hourly. So just want you to know, look out for that. That will probably be coming within the next few months. I'm working on getting panelists and stuff. But for today, those are kind of like the definitions that we'll be operating under for today's conversation.
Just two more quick things I want to add. So, part-time work is still a thing, right? So all fractionals are also part-time workers, but all part-time workers are not necessarily fractional, right? They're not synonymous because fractional is that senior embedded leader, which not all part-timers are. And the other thing I just want to clarify, fractional tends to be 1099, but occasionally it can be W-2, right? Like that is an arrangement between you and the employer.
Okay.
There have been instances, traditionally speaking, and I'd say 98% of the time it's 1099, but it
Okay.
could be W-2. There's no reason it can't if that's what you both agree.
Yeah. Okay. That's really, really helpful. Sam, I'm curious for you. What do you think the biggest misconception that you hear about fractional roles is?
Um, I think the biggest misconception is, how do I explain this? Understanding what our role is when you're onboarding. Everybody wants to know like what value you're going to deliver, like what impact. And I can say some things to a point, but I'm not a consultant. I'm not there to do project work. I do bring experience and expertise, and I do have some projects I know we're going to tackle together, but the world happens in with your business, and I'm lockstep with your business. So I'm a partner in the business. I'm not necessarily coming in to consult and to work on projects. I'm there to be embedded. And so trying to communicate that sometimes and help them understand, like, that's why I'm not going to work just 1 or 2 hours with you. I need a little bit more time. I'm still part-time, but it's not super small. I do have retainer clients that are consulting retainers, and that I'm very clear with them to set expectations of the impact that I can have with them is very project based, but we have a consultant retainer, so it's ongoing. I'm with them, but to be a fractional is really to be if fully embedded and fully a part of the team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you for that. Let's go into talking a little bit more or deeper into like positioning and marketing. And either of you feel free to jump in here. So how have you approached marketing yourself as a fractional leader? What's worked, what hasn't?
Sam, do you want to go first?
Yeah. For me, it's very relationship based because anytime you're selling anything that's a higher ticket, and this is a higher ticket, this is not a small package, this is something bigger. Anytime you sell something bigger, you're going to have that relationship. So unfortunately, referrals always the best, right? Referrals are always the number one. So networking, cultivating warm relationships, that's the number one. But the second thing is I lean heavily on my website and my social media because that's the second place people go to learn about me. So I don't depend on my social media and my website to necessarily generate leads, although it has. But for the most part, people hear about me, they want to know more about me. Now I'm going to go to learn. And so having those digital pieces in place and having them be really clear, engaging, that's sort of been really important for me. As well as having freebies. I believe in being very generous and from the get-go, because I can give them all the tools in the world, but they need me to help them implement it. And so giving things away for free whenever it makes sense is a great way to demonstrate that I know what I'm talking about, and give them a little value. And then they usually say, "Can you come help me do that? That
Yeah.
sounds great. Help me implement that." So,
Yeah.
um, unfortunately, there is no other secret sauce than networking, making friends. I mean, I say unfortunately as an introvert. It's just the worst.
Yeah. That's really helpful. I think, Sam, what you're talking about are two things. One is like credibility, right? Like you mentioned, all of the content that you're creating kind of is like the backbone of making more credible to somebody who is, getting referred to or something like that. But then the trust, like giving away freebies is, people are like, oh my gosh, there's already so much value in this, but yeah, I don't have the time or expertise to be able to implement it. So like, why wouldn't I go back to Sam, right? So I think those are really great. And Karina, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I'm also an introvert. So yes, networking is hard, but joining communities that are either for your function, for your industry, to be honest, I started Fractionals United because I was looking for my people, right? Like it's hard. I have been doing this for a while. Upwork used to be a viable source of leads. It no longer is. Um, I had gone full time with that recruiter and then come back to fractional in the beginning of 2020. Oh my God, 2023. I don't know years anymore. It's
Yeah.
like blurs COVID, blurs everything. Um, and I was like looking for community because I'm like, where are my people? I don't want to refigure this out all myself. So if you can find a community of your peers, whether it's consultants or obviously talent, acquisition, because not only do you want to connect with others like you, but you want to connect with others adjacent to what you do. So, in Fractionals United, we have all functions, right? Because, for instance, as a fractional COO, it's really great having relationships with HR, fractional
Yeah.
HR leaders, fractional
Right.
marketers. I cannot tell you how many, fractional marketing and finance people I brought into my clients through the years, right? Um, so both having like those cross-functional relationships where like you get to know each other, you trust each other, you bring each other in, or also partners, right? It's like, all the ATSs, right? Or whatever it
Yeah.
is, right? Have partners that know the people who need you to implement the thing or do the thing, right? And but you have to start with relationship.
Mhm.
It's like so Front is going from free to paid, which was a tough decision and a whole other topic.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting because the people in there looking just for the leads are the people who don't think it's worth $10 a month
Yeah.
because
Right.
they're not in there for community, right? They're
Yeah.
not in there for connection.
Yep.
I'm not a recruiter. I'm not trying to be a recruiter. That's not what it's about. And if you approach it from like gimme, gimme, gimme,
Yeah.
you're
Yep.
gonna get nothing. But if you're
Yeah.
looking for people who have commonalities, like Sam and I could talk from here till tomorrow because we have so much in common, right? And we met through Fun,
Mhm.
and find people who you have common interests with and get to know each other and build trust and it's not a short, fast win.
Yeah.
You're in it for the long term. You're in it to make connections and meet people that you want to work with. If not now, then some point.
Yep. Absolutely. It's the long game, right? Well, thank you. That's all really helpful. So now you've gotten maybe a lead or somebody warm, somebody that you're a potential client that you're talking to. It's funny, Karina, when you and I first chatted, I said, "Well, how do you pitch your services?" And you're like, "Well, I don't really pitch my services. This is more of a two-way interview, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of this is, because it is a long-term relationship that you are getting into. A lot of it is about that vetting process, similar to, what you would do if you were interviewing for a full-time role,
Yeah.
two-way, right? So I'm curious, what strategies do both of you use to find and vet the right clients?
So we talked about finding through like networks and all of that already. So I'll focus on the vetting. I have gotten to the point now where I probably will ask about budget first
Mhm.
because honestly, I don't want to waste our time, right? If they're not even close to what my rates are, like I used to take all calls and there was like a period where like everyone I talked to was like just couldn't afford me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? That doesn't help anyone. So I definitely want to be upfront, at least ballpark. And then it's a conversation. Like it is a two-way interview, especially as a fractional COO, especially as a COO, period.
Mhm.
Um, that relationship with the CEO is almost like a marriage. Like we have to really trust each other. And like, you know, I can't be effective if they don't trust me and empower me and get out of my way, right? So I don't even want to start this if I don't feel like this is someone who's going to allow me to succeed.
Mhm.
So I have a frank conversation. If I have any red flags, I've learned to lean into it and like ask about it because the worst thing you want to do, and I've done it, like I've learned, like you don't we're not born fractionals having all the answers. So I've made my mistakes,
Yeah.
but it's horrible to be in a position where you're set up to fail, and I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, great. Sam.
Yeah. Vetting is really important. I believe in thorough interviewing in all hiring, whether I'm doing the hiring for my clients or if I'm looking to hire a client for myself. And I think of it that way. We are hiring each other. Um, Before I have that conversation, I know we'll talk about pricing and packages in a minute, but I have a very well packaged client facing offer that I can share to them so that we don't get into the weeds of, well, what if I only want this? What if I only want that? I've got different levels, I've got options for everybody, but I just want to be really clear like, if you fit here, great. If not, then I understand. Um, and I also will interview for their company. So I'll interview to ask, what's your team size? Um, do you know what you want to be when you grow up? Because sometimes you start with a business that doesn't really know what it wants to do, and they want something that's not a fractional COO. They want a business coach or a magical fairy wand. And I can only execute on something that they already know that they want. So if they want to grow, if they know where they're going, I can help them get there. That's my sweet spot. And then to add to what Karina said, you need to find a right fit personality because Karina and I, we get along so well, but we're two different kinds of COOs. We have a lot in common, but we have a lot that's not in common. And so I love to refer people to her, say, I'm not your person, that person is, because not all COOs are the same. Some COOs have certain focuses. I am not going to be your warehouse and supply chain COO. I'm very leadership development focused. And so I'm going to be interviewing on the criteria for my perfect customer. Even though it is a two-way interview, I am still a business and I'm looking for my perfect customer. And like any business, if you aim for your perfect customer, you're going to weed out the ones that are not a right fit. You're going to know what their traits are. You're going to know the problems that you can solve really well for them. And so I just get really clear on who my perfect customer is. And then in that conversation, I'm just asking really politely direct questions to make sure that we are going to be a good fit so that when they come to me with that great, exciting idea, and I'm the operations person who stomps all over their dreams and says no, we have a good working relationship and we can have that conversation, manage that tension of very different personalities because we are a right fit, because we put the work in early on.
Yeah, that's so smart. I mean, you never want to start a relationship off on the wrong foot because you didn't do the right vetting in the beginning to really figure out is this even the right fit, right? It sets you up for failure or, not success and the company too. So,
Yeah.
you mentioned pricing and billing, so let's get into that. Sam, if you could maybe start us off by sharing like just what a typical fee arrangement would look like. What is a monthly retainer? How does it all work?
Yeah. So for myself, I decided how many clients I want to work with. I love working fractionally. It's my dream job. And so there is a maximum amount of time I want to invest with someone. So there is a ceiling. And there also is a minimum amount of time I know that's going to take for me to deliver impact, for me to really make a difference in the company. So I've got my ceiling, I've got my base, and I kind of divide it into three levels and say like, here's a good one for like a smaller team, smaller engagement, and I communicate to the client and say, it's really about how fast you want to go. It's like the gas pedal. And some people can only afford to go so fast.
Mhm.
They have a Volvo. They are not going to go really fast. Like they're just going to go so fast. And that's where they're at. That's what they can afford. And the great thing about fractional is that they can still get that expert help at the price point that makes sense for them. That's a good fit for them. They don't have to wait until they can buy the Ferrari.
Yeah.
They can go at Volvo speed and still have a fractional COO or a fractional team member. So divided into kind of three levels. And then when I package it, I kind of communicate like it's this much money. I do say that there is a certain amount of time committed to that. And it is important to me, it's not hourly, but the more of my hours you add, the lower my hourly rate will be for you. You'll get more that way. So the lowest one is, a certain amount of time, but the way that I manage it is it's a monthly amount of hours. It ebbs and flows a little bit too because it's a fractional engagement. For example, right now I'm working a little bit more in the month of May. I know I'm going to be over hours somewhere, and that's okay because I'm going on vacation in June. And so I'm just working ahead. I'm preparing to be out of office. And so the amount is set, it's standard. I'm communicating with my client every week. I'm like, here's what I accomplished last week. Here's how I spent your of my time. Here's what I'm going to do this week for you. Are we still on track? Great. And we just keep moving forward from there.
Mhm. Great. Anything to add to that, Karina?
Yeah, so similar to no COO, two COOs being alike, no two fractionals will necessarily have the exact same structure. I will say definitely don't do hourly. I do weekly retainers. I don't do monthly, I do weekly. And I have what I call a 3-2-1 pricing strategy. So to start out with a new client, it's up to 3 hours a day and 15 hours a week. And again, like Sam, I say that it's not hourly, but because I have to time block, there
Yeah.
is a time component, right? So it's a retainer. So at the three level, they have up to 3 hours a day and up to 15 hours a week. And that is for 3 to 6 months because I need to spend more time understanding what's working, what's not, who's who. Like, I don't just go in there and make changes for change's sake. Like, I really deep dive till I understand what's working and what's not and make recommendations. Then I move to like the transition phase, which is the two, and that's up
Mhm.
to 2 hours a day and 10 hours a week. And that stays, that's where I spend most of the time.
Mhm.
And that's as long as is necessary to have like everything working smoothly, right? Optimized, team engaged, everyone, everything is doing what it's supposed to be at the right time, at the right place, etc. And then
Mhm.
I go to maintenance, which is up to 1 hour a day or 5 hours a week. And that's just like I'm still the leader, I'm still troubleshooting, I'm still managing. The CEO doesn't have to worry about the things. I'm there if anything goes wrong, but they don't need more of my time. And I
Mhm.
stay there until I see I'm adding value. And, I've kind of fired myself when I see like after a while they just don't need me at all. And that's it.
Mhm.
Um, if someone can't afford the 3, I can start at the 2 and I tell them it's just going to take a little longer, similar to, what Sam said. But that's generally my structure.
Okay, so interesting. Yeah, so I like the 3-2-1 where you're kind of investing more time in the beginning and then you start to scale down. So anyone here on this call that's thinking of starting a fractional business or has recently started a fractional business, and even if you're an hourly consultant, sometimes in the beginning, it's hard to, one, know how to determine what your rate should be, and two, price with confidence and really, know your worth, so to speak. I would love to hear from you both on, what are those scenarios in which you do increase your prices, and how do you like any suggestions on like the mindset piece of it? How do you shift your mindset or grow your mindset, your confidence to be able to increase your prices over time?
So I would say use communities like yours
Mhm.
to find out what the average rates are. Like, I don't know if you guys do surveys. We've had other people, like Front hasn't done it, but there are enough other people doing similar surveys out in the field that I didn't feel I needed to do it. Um, but like know the range, right? I can say when I went solo back in, I don't know how long ago it was, and I was still on Upwork. I started at $50 an hour and I thought that was a lot. And then
Yeah.
I remember when I increased to 75, and it was my husband that kept encouraging me to
Yeah.
increase my rate. And every time I did it, I was so afraid no one would want me. And up to a point, like Upwork isn't the place for like senior people. So I did hit a limit there, but that's because of Upwork. But it's like you have to like the best way is like know the range, right? Like I'm not even the most expensive fractional COO out there, but I am comfortable where I'm at because
Yeah.
I work with SMBs, not VC-backed startups, so it's a different game, right? But and I will be honest here, I increased my rate when I started Front. I was still underpricing myself, and I didn't know this. So ask your people. Ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I would also add, think of the advice you would give to someone else in your situation. So when I staff and hire for employees for myself or for my clients, I want to pay them enough to where on that bad day, it's still enough. So on those bad days, sometimes people might say, well, they're not even paying me enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so that's the first thing to remember. Like make sure that everybody's being paid enough to where even after the honeymoon phase, you're still paid enough. The second thing is um, it can be easy, especially as women, to be accommodating and to want to
Mhm.
be helpful and to be accommodating and helpful and value-based sometimes. Um, and I would encourage you to say, industry standard. Look at what you need to be paid where you live. I saw a great question. Do you change your rate based on location? I do not for myself because I live where I live and I need the life that I live. And so my clients need to be able to support that. Now, if I had a client who lived in a really to-do place, I don't know, like what would that look like? I don't know. I integrity, let me ask myself that question. I'm not sure how I would handle that. But for myself, my rates are set. I am not going to be able to go lower for clients who live in a place where it's not the same because where I live, Richmond, Virginia, certain level of expenses. So ask yourself, what would you tell someone else to charge? And then you charge that. Ask yourself, what do other people charge? And then think about some of those people who charge and are paid for less work than you do, who don't deliver as much value as you do. Like you can be paid what you're worth. You need to be paid what you're worth so that on those bad days, you're not resentful, you're not suffering, and questioning all of your life's choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these are such I think, important things to remember in the beginning, right? Because over time, I mean, Karina, you said it, like over time, you knew your value, and it was years, I don't know what the time frame was, but I'm sure years upon years of you going, you know what, now I'm ready for the next step. And I know I'm delivering the value, and I, now have years of clients to be able to back that up, or what have you. So I think sometimes in the beginning, we need these little pep talks from other people who have gone before us.
And remember that you have to pay taxes, and
Yeah.
you are your own boss.
Benefits.
This
Yeah.
administrative overhead that you don't have to do as a W-2 employee that, you need to think of.
Yes. Yeah. Those are great, great points.
And the savings that they're having by hiring someone who's likely a 1099, who's covering their own tech costs,
Yep.
who pays for all of their own subscriptions. They don't have to pay for my computer. They don't have to pay for my health care or my payroll taxes. So there are savings for them as well that you're taking on for yourself. And so
Yeah.
don't forget to factor in the fact that you are a business and you need to charge not just for you as a person, but for you as a business,
Mhm.
which is a
Yeah.
different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. Let's move along. We have a few more topics to cover here. So next, we're going to talk about working model boundaries. So kind of like, time management. So how do you set boundaries with clients around time, communication, scope, especially in these longer term roles?
Yeah. So I have been working remotely since 2011. And so I know a lot of people during COVID were learning how to work remotely for the first time, but I've been doing this a while. And so um, it is it can be easy to work whenever. And I had to find what worked for me. In the early days when my kids were young, I worked after they went to bed. I worked early in the day, like I worked in the good moments. But now that they're older, and currently unloading the dishwasher, I can set more structured boundaries for myself to when I work best. For me, it's 9 to 5 and it's all at once. And I do all one thing really well. And then when I'm out of the office, I do all that thing really well.
Mhm.
Um, I set really firm boundaries for myself, and I also tell those boundaries to both my clients and my family. The important thing with clients is if I tell them I'm setting a boundary, I then have to stick to that boundary.
Yeah.
I have to train them that I mean it. So if you say I'm not going to be on Slack after hours, but then you log in and reply to Slack messages,
Yeah.
you're teaching them your actions are not matching your boundaries. And so you have to say your boundaries and then you have to stick to your boundaries.
Well,
Um,
also with your family, I just had a situation with my daughter that I told her no more calls from after school. Like, I'll come when I come, right? I'm not going to pick you up early all the time. Yesterday, she's calling me early, and I was like, I'm not answering. And I just didn't. And it was the first time I felt so good about it. But otherwise, she's
yes.
going to keep calling and calling and calling to get picked up early, right? So
Yeah.
same goes for family. But I cut you off, and please.
No, it does. You have to, it's whatever you train them, whatever you
Yep.
reward. And so sticking to those boundaries, having those outlets for communication. So I use a Google Voice number for my clients. And so I can actually turn it off so it doesn't go to my phone. And I
Oh,
don't reply to them and I just ghost them. And they
yeah.
just I have Slack notifications and do not disturb scheduled. So if it's outside of those hours, I'm not getting those notifications. I do not get email notifications on my phone. It's not productive for me to do that. So I am a hardliner when it comes to those boundaries. If I cannot get it all done within those time constraints, there's something else that needs to be solved. So there is a scope issue, there is a productivity issue, and I need to look at what's causing that overflow versus giving up
Mm.
giving up personal time, which is usually what happens, giving up that personal time. And then also being really clear to proactively communicate with clients. Here's what I worked on last week. Here's what I'm going to do this week. Here's where we're at in our time month to date. And so we're in this rhythm of communication that keeps everybody really aligned and clear on what the priorities are and how I'm spending their money on my time.
Yeah, great. And what about, and maybe Karina, you can tackle this next one, approach to time management, and maybe it's some of the same things, but when you're juggling multiple clients, right? And how do you structure your day and your week?
Yeah. So, as I had said, I do time blocks, right, or weekly retainers because there's time blocks. And depending if they're 3, 2, 1, we decide on the time that works for both of us. And then I create a SavvyCal link where like that corresponds to that time if they need to schedule a meeting with me. And, all my clients have a Slack, like we have like email is for external, Slack is for internal. Nobody calls me. I don't pick up the phone. Um, so I establish all this up front as to what the expectations are. And, I will allow for emergencies, but they have to be emergencies, right? Like if it's like the boy who cried wolf, like if it's all an emergency, nothing is an emergency.
Yes.
I will say though that again, like different things work for different people. And I'm also juggling being a founder of a global community, which is very different than being a fractional COO for someone else. And I'm a night owl. So like I have structured, like I don't do meetings before noon. I work from 12 to 7, like, because that works for me. Like I prefer to go to sleep late. I wake up late, catch up on things and don't deal with people. I have meetings generally 12 to 2, and then I have a work block and a focus block.
Yeah.
It never works for you. And when you're your own boss, within constraints, obviously, like if you have clients, and it's ironic, like most of my clients had been in like California, which worked out perfectly because
Yeah, it sure does. That's great.
it was perfect. So, you just have to like communicate with them and have clear expectations when you're on, when you're not on, and what they can expect.
Yeah.
And I think time blocking and like things like SavvyCal or Calendly that correspond to your time blocks. And I love SavvyCal because you literally you can have it look for a time block and it corresponds to the name of a time block. So it just does a lot of like really nice UI things. And every client can have their own little SavvyCal that corresponds to the time block. Done.
Okay, that's really helpful. Oh, Sam, did you want to say something else?
No, I'm writing mute because my dog has decided now is the most active time of his day.
Okay. Great. Okay, we're gonna get into talking about tools a little bit here. You've already mentioned some calendar tools. What are some of those other essential tools that really help you maintain your calendar, communication, client work? I know a big one for me right now is I'm managing one client that's on Microsoft Teams or the whole Microsoft ecosystem. But then I'm on Google Workspace. So any of those types of things or issues, would love to hear your best practices.
Slack, absolutely Slack. Um, I generally try to get my clients into Slack unless, most of them are already in there, or I try to introduce them and recommend it. ClickUp or something. So the way I do it for myself and the way I try to get my clients is that there is, something for internal communication like a Slack. There's something for external communication like email and G Suite. Please, God help me if I have to be in Microsoft again. Um, and then something for task management, right? A ClickUp, Asana, Trello, whatever. Like if they don't have anything, my go-to is ClickUp or Coda, but if they have something, we make it work. But like that, everything has a place and everybody knows where to go for what. Like internal communication does not equal task management, does not, external communication. And tools like ClickUp and Coda also have like wikis, so you can document things there, right? Everything has a place and time. I use that for myself. I have different emails with each of my clients, so like they all go into one inbox, but it's tagged and organized. I cannot live without those. There are others, but I will let Sam talk.
Yeah. Karina and I are tech nerds, so this is a topic we could actually go down a hole on. But my favorite tools, so I have my favorite tools when working with clients to recommend to them. Please use these tools. But then for myself in managing Nerd Hat solutions, I love Reclaim, Reclaim.ai. I think they were just acquired by Dropbox, I believe. But I love them because they I can do my booking links, but also I can do tasks and time blocking. And so on Monday, at the end of the day, I have time blocked off on my calendar. It's a habit that I built in Reclaim. And what's nice is you can say, instead of putting on your calendar a repeating event that says, I want to eat lunch at 12 o'clock every day, you say, I want to eat lunch between 11:30 and 1:30. My ideal is 12 o'clock. I need at least 30 minutes or maybe an hour. And then it uses AI to plan your week for you. And so it'll say, well, you have a late meeting here, so your lunch is going to be a little early and a little short. But on Wednesday, you have the full hour. And then on Thursday, it's a little bit later. And so it plans it out for you. And I put my tasks and my time blocking in it. I love Reclaim. It is such a great brain. And it's easy to adjust things if you don't like the way that it plans. You just kind of click and drag it on your calendar. But as somebody who lives in her calendar and has everything into one place, I pull all my client calendars into Reclaim so I can see it all in one spot. For managing time, I love Toggle. So
Mhm.
Toggle allows me to track my time so that I know if I'm on pace, and it tracks against a goal. So I kind of set like, I'm going to work at least 7 hours for this client this week, and Toggle will like track my progress towards that. So I can see on Wednesday that I'm either really behind on one client or really ahead on another, and helps me manage my time better. So Toggle. I like QuickBooks because I'm really familiar with QuickBooks. And so when it comes to my invoicing and my billing and my bookkeeping, I like that. But there are a lot of great tools to use for that. But that is one that I love for my tech stack. And Canva. I love Canva. It could do so much. It could do so much more than just social media graphics. I highly recommend watching the keynote. They're adding spreadsheets and AI and all kinds of things this year. That's going to be really, really fun.
Very exciting.
Reclaim.ai. I will grab a link and drop it in there for you guys.
Yeah, that was great. I loved hearing about that. There's another question above it, but can I just ask one more question about Reclaim? Because I
Yes,
was thinking
yes.
about some things here. Okay, so like
So
the lunch
much.
example. So what tends to happen, especially in my life as a recruiter, is I don't necessarily have to have a static lunchtime, right? But I want a break of some kind. And so if you like say the like sometime between 12 and 1:30, and then your calendar starts to get booked up, will it like hold a 30 minutes to like hold that space so that you actually do get that break?
Yes, you can make things very firm, or you can say, if I don't, it's okay. So there are some you can set it as a non-negotiable, or you can set it as not that important, nice to have.
Oh,
That's about
okay.
it.
Interesting. Okay, great.
Um, to
Mhm.
answer the other question above, and Karina may have a better answer for it, but
Sorry, I hadn't been paying attention.
for connecting, I love LinkedIn. I know not everybody loves LinkedIn, but I love LinkedIn because I do work very B2B, and that's where they are for me. And so it's just where they're spending their time. I love to connect and I hop on networking calls with people. I get in people's inboxes and have conversations and follow it up to a Zoom. I actually have a Google Doc where I have a bunch of messaging that I can copy and paste. Now it's personalized, but it makes my little introvert systems brain very happy to have those starting points and to say, like, when I have a connection that accepts, I'm so excited. Let's get the conversation going prompt if they don't say anything. And so I love LinkedIn. I have started doing more in person this year. And so I did join my local chamber, and I'm doing a lot more local networking as well. But my best success is on LinkedIn.
Mhm. Great. Yeah. And thanks, Karina, for putting in the fractionaljobs.io. Yeah. Any other platforms you suggest for connecting with professionals in this space? I'm assuming other fractionals, which, Fractionals United, I think would be a great one. Um, any other thoughts on that? Oh, and
There aren't really like fractionaljobs.io is honestly the only real fractional job board out there. And I can say that Taylor Crane, the founder, is a fractional who understands what it is and is doing it for the right reasons. There are a lot of marketplaces out there, but they charge the talents, you
Mhm.
know, and some of them double book, double bill where they charge, for you to be in there and then they take a percentage if they get you work, which I think is like just not right.
Mm.
Um, and none of those, like we talk about them. I actually, in the community resources, we have a proceed with caution table because we kept complaining about certain of these places and people. So I just decided to put it together and make it easy for people to follow and know whom to avoid. So
Yeah.
I would say if you're joining a marketplace, ask the questions like, who is being charged for what and what are you getting? Because there was one I joined, like in the beginning, like anything people would talk about, I would join to see the experience. And there was one, all right, all right, gig X. Like you literally get charged for like every little bit and you get so little and then you're just out there and nothing comes of it. So it's totally not worth it. But there's
Mhm.
of these where like you're just paying just to be in a black hole.
Yeah. 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 Great point. Okay, we're going to go into our last couple of questions here. Thank you for everyone that's putting questions in the chat, and please continue to do so. And these are the last part is kind of like advice, words of wisdom, lesson learned. So we'll start with a lesson learned. Would love to hear from each of you. What's one thing that you learned the hard way in your fractional journey that others should know up front?
Yeah, Allison just asked that question in chat too. It's just
Oh,
perfect.
perfect.
So you're reading her mind. I will say for me, I hinted at it earlier with a little bit of resentment, but not knowing what they want to be when they grow up, working with people who are too early stage, for me, it was very frustrating because they didn't know what they really needed. They weren't sure if they were a startup or a lifestyle business, and it was just too early on. They had a team, they had a little bit of momentum, and they were energizing. And I was so excited to be a part of their growth. And then I got in there and I was like, oh, you don't know which direction to go, do you?
Yeah.
So I tried to make it work, but I need them to know that they're going to, I need them to know what they want to be when they grow up so
Yeah.
that I can actually help them and not, I, it can be easy to say, I have to take these clients because I'm early and I need to work with everyone. And yeah, sometimes you do. Sometimes in the early stages you do. And that's part of learning who you work really well with. But trust your gut because I knew it wasn't a right fit. I knew that they were I in my gut. I just thought I can fix them. I can fix them. You can't. You can't.
Yeah. Just like dating, learning
Yeah.
who you don't want as much as who you do want, right?
Yeah.
Karina, what about
Yeah,
you?
absolutely trust your gut and not only not only that, but know so, especially for COOs, there are no two alike, right? And people don't understand what a COO is and what we can do. And, people sometimes hire COO, but want us to be like a growth person or, a salesperson or something, like everything in the kitchen sink, right? So be very clear about the kind of work you want to do and make sure that what they're hiring and looking for is something you want to do. Um, and have that, like ask for the job description, have that conversation, ask the questions, be clear. And yes, there are times you have to take a job and you hold your nose and you hope for the best. We've been there, done that. But at least you go into it knowing this is a short-term thing, right? And I have bills to pay and it's not meant to be long-term. But don't go into a long-term thing holding your nose or, rose-colored glasses. Like know what you're in for because this is all about brand and reputation and back to the referrals and the networks being someone other people can trust to refer work to, right? So you don't want to set yourself up to fail because it's going to hurt your long-term, you know, hireability.
Brand, yeah, yeah, brand and
I
reputation.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of the same learning that I had, because if it's a wrong fit, you can't deliver
Yeah.
value for them. And that was why it eventually fired this client as a client. I said, I'm sorry, I cannot deliver value for you. I cannot win here for you. And so knowing that it's a right fit is also about being able to deliver value, because if I can't deliver value, they're going to fire me, and they're going to and then that's going to hurt my hireability, and that's going to hurt my reputation. And so I want to deliver value because I'm a firstborn daughter. I really am a high achiever, and so like I got to do the things, but I I need to have a right fit person for me. And I've heard Karina kind of jokingly say, like, COOs do whatever the CEO doesn't want to do when it comes to running the business. It's a great, I loved it. And I'm gonna say I'm giving her complete credit. That was hers. But it's true, because there are some things CEOs are really good at, and there's some things COOs tend to be good at. But at the end of the day, it's like, you want to go socialize, don't you, CEO? Like, you want to go market and do sales. You want to have all the sales calls. You want to be the face of the business. And I don't want to talk to those people. So that sounds great. So
Yeah.
we're a perfect fit, and you have to find that perfect fit, or nobody's going to win.
Mhm. Such amazing advice. Thank you both so, so much. This has been wonderful. I learned a lot. I think everyone here has taken away at least 5 golden nuggets, probably more. So I put everyone's LinkedIn's in the chat, Karina and Sam's, but I'll also send it out afterwards. So feel free to connect with them, and I'm sure that they'd be happy to answer any questions. And who knows, maybe somebody's company needs a fractional COO or another fractional, employee, or I guess not employee, but 1099 or something like that, that you guys could refer. So for everyone else, thank you for being here. Hope you got a ton from this. We do have some really amazing events coming up in May and June that are virtual. Some of those topics are mindset, reframing your story, and then demystifying compensation. So look out for those. Those should already be posted on our LinkedIn page and our Luma page. But appreciate everyone for being here today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.